Alright, this is an update to our last topsy-turvy video where we made homemade, I should say topsy-turvies, as it is trademarked and not our intellectual property, but our upside-down hanging bags of tomato plants with dirt in them. Originally, we used these. My beautiful wife cut out holes in them, slots to slide the plants through. These were to hold the root mass, so that the plant was here, the roots were here. The plant could hang upside down without falling through or putting more stress on the bag. It disperses the weight. And in our last video, we used this type of bag. We purchased these for $1 at the Dollar Tree. We found that the stitching in these, as it's real short, isn't as structurally stable, and over time the stitching begins to break loose, causing the bag to sag down, and eventually we're afraid they're going to fall if we don't amend them. So then we purchased these. These are also from the Dollar Tree. You can see the stitching here. It's across the bottom between layers of fabric, and it's stitched all the way up the side. So the stress is going to be dispersed over a larger area of the bag, and the stitching will hopefully hold longer. And this time, instead of the styrofoam, we purchased one of these. It's a floaty or a noodle pull toy. It was originally a good deal longer, but we've already started. We're making these little rings. These will serve the purpose of this. The plant stem will go through the hole in the center, and this will help to cushion it, hold it in place, keep it from falling through. And also, we found with these hard styrofoam rings that the soil is more likely to seep out around the plant in the holes that we cut. So with these, the hope is that they will kind of squish down a little bit and seal the dirt more in the bag. Alright, our next step will be to take scissors and cut a couple holes in this bag. Initially, in our first video, we cut the holes close together so that we could fit two plants in one ring. But in this, we're going to cut the holes a little further apart so the plants have more room to spread their leaves, and hopefully it will also put the weight of the soil, or the weight of the plants, to the outside of the bag instead of having it in the center, which kind of makes it want to buckle. And by the way, we paid $1 for two of these. We paid $1 for this entire noodle, which has cut several rings already. Also, initially we were going to use scissors to cut this, thinking it would be easy because of soft foam. I found it to be much easier to use a serrated knife. Now, if any children are wanting to try this at home, don't use a knife or scissors without your parents' permission and them being there with you, so you don't cut off a finger or hurt yourself in any other way. And these are very easy to cut with a knife. You want to turn it so you don't cut up your work surface. I'm just using one of these bags, but I don't want it all full of holes. So after cutting about halfway through, maybe a little more, keeping the knife parallel to the table, you turn it and then proceed from the other side. Now to cut the holes in the bag, I'm going to put my hand in and push the bag up this way. Then I'm going to take my hand out so I don't cut my fingers. We don't need a very large hole because we're putting small pepper plants in. That should be plenty big enough. Actually, that's a bit bigger than I wanted it to be. I'll try to do a little better with this one. There, that's more what I was going for. Somewhere between a nickel size and a quarter size hole. Okay, I'm back, even though to you I didn't go anywhere. I have my pepper plants now. Another thing I want to show you is, when using these hard styrofoam rings, we had to cut a notch through the side to slide the plant in. I'll show you what I'm speaking about. These should be easy to pull out. They should maintain the root mass like that. We had to slide them in like this And without that notch there, this plastic or this styrofoam is too hard to bend. It doesn't have any flexibility. So if you tried to bend it to put the plant in there, it would just snap. So we cut notches in them. It still, as you can see, supports the plant. But you see around it, this is going to be mostly root mass, so you don't have to worry about too much soil coming through there. But whenever this sits in that bag, the plant doesn't really, or the ring I should say, doesn't really block anything through here. So as the water channels through, it begins to pull dirt through that crevice and right out the bottom of the bag. Now with these, we'll just take our scissors, give them a quick snip. It's easier to cut them this way than it is this way. And because these will flex, we don't have to have that notch. So when they're closed and the dirt's sitting on them, hopefully they'll be like this. Now that we've got our notch cut in our ring, we'll put the ring in the bag. You can just throw it in there. And then we're going to try to get our pepper plant roots up through this hole. We may end up having to go a little bit bigger on that one. We'll see. You don't have to worry too much about squishing these. You're not going to do too much damage. I mean, don't get crazy with them and squeeze them like a grape, but you can form it a bit without really hurting the roots any. And then we'll just put it over this tray so we don't dump dirt all over our table. Bastard. You can have that part if you want to. There might be kids watching. There we go. Now, of course I dumped my ring back out of the bag. Don't throw it down in the bag first. That was kind of dumb. We've got a root ball up through the hole. We'll take the little ring and put it around the base of the plant, and then there we go. There. Our plant will lay like that. I've spread the roots a little bit so when I fill them with soil, they'll have more of an outward growing pattern and they won't get root bound. And I'll do the next one, and then we'll fill it in with soil. This is what it looks like when it's done. We've labeled it on the side of the bag so we know what it is. Just use a permanent marker. Sometimes it washes off. This is a nylon synthetic cloth. We filled it with a layer of peat at the bottom and then a layer of compost, which was just our native soil mixed with a bit of straw, and it's wintered over. You can see the straw on the top. This will also act as hopefully a weed barrier and help to retain moisture in the bag, because these bags are of course porous, and when they hang they don't retain as much moisture as it would if the plant were in the ground. So you do want to keep them watered well whenever you've got these hanging. Don't go overboard and drown your plants. But if you see your leaves looking wilty, you know it's time to water. Okay, here's an update on the topsy-turvies that we hung before. The first video, if you watched it. If you didn't, watch it. Plants seem to be doing really well. They're looking really healthy. You see where they're curving up instead of growing straight down because they reach for the sunlight. Now this frame we built just using some old decking boards. We're moving a deck from the back of our house to the front, and it's not going to need to be as long. So we had these posts and these boards left over. I made this frame just specifically to hang these. And what I did to hang them, instead of going through the straps and damaging the cloth, making another weak spot, I used this strip of 1x2. Got these at Lowe's for about 90 cents. I bought bundles of them so I have plenty of extra, and as I went I put one screw in it at one end, then I slid my first bag on and put my next screw. That held the board in place. When you do this, if you're doing this by yourself, when you start sliding your second bag on, don't just let go of it up at that end. You'll snap your board right in half. You hold the board with one hand and you slide it with the other until you get close to this screw. Then you hold it, use your electric screw gun to set your screw. Before you put this up here, you want to pre-drill your holes. Don't preset your screws, because when you slide your bags, you'll snag on the screws and then it's just a hassle. But pre-drill your holes, that way you can have your screws in your pocket, your screw gun within arm's reach. Even if you have a tool belt, would be even better. But hold your board with one hand, screw with the other. Make sure you're not grabbing on the back. The screws that I use are slightly longer than this board and this board put together, so they come through about 1/4 inch on the other side. You don't want to drill into your hand, it hurts. We have had a bit of a deer problem. The deer are very thick in our area, and these are right at lunch height for them. They don't even have to bend their heads to eat them. So they've picked a lot of our green tomatoes. We're going to make some little chimes to hang, and hopefully that will help to deter the deer a bit. We're also considering hanging a bar of Irish Spring, either in the middle or somewhere around our structure. Base of our structure, I've planted a mortgage lifter tomato, and as it's climbing, I'm using gardening tape to secure it to the post. I don't want to use wire where it's going to cut into the stem and possibly kill the top of my plant. I want it to keep growing, so we opted to use this gardening tape. The reason that the mortgage lifter is down here and not hanging, as you can see, these are a cherry tomato. They're small fruit, the fruit's light, it won't break the plant. The mortgage lifter is a big, heavy tomato. They can get up to 1 pound, sometimes more, and if you have that hanging, it will either snap the fruit off, or it will snap the plant, or it will tear your roots right out of the bottom of your bag. You don't want that. That's not good.